Hey, what up? What up? Just making sure everything is working. It's gonna be English only tonight. Sorry about you guys in France. We did a lot of live video in French, so tonight's gonna be English only. Hi guys. Yeah, I'm gonna have a driving school tomorrow in France, so I'm alone in my hotel room, and I said, "Ah, let's make something fun. Um, Better than watching Netflix, I guess. Just having some fun with you guys, answering questions. So we're gonna try to go live as much as possible. The last live was after the World Championship. We have many questions in France, and some guys were frustrated because we were only doing it in French. And I know I have some followers that are worldwide, so better make sure that everything is okay. Hi Peter, hi Sebastian, hi Jules, hi everybody. Everybody's working and speaking English also. I see tonight, so I think it's gonna be a big deal for you guys in French that need to learn a little bit English, especially on the setup and yeah, maybe some technical questions. We've seen many guys using some English words like camber, droop, all those words. Hi, Southern California. Awesome, awesome. I think that that time of the day is pretty good worldwide. So I'm pretty sure some Asian friends will be there. Some guys like you in Southern California, America. So that's super cool. Um, I will be there in February, I guess, if everything goes well. Like last year, I will be in Southern California for the third night challenge, so it'll be awesome. Um, Waiting for you guys to be a little bit more. Please share, of course, that link if you are watching on Michigan. Also, hi Justin, hi Robert, hi everybody. South America, Paraguay, Diego, hi Diego. It's nice. Super good to see you guys from all over the world. Like I said, I've been doing live videos in French, and I know you guys are following also in many different countries in the world. So super nice to be there. I hope you see me well, you hear me well, and I'm here to answer all your questions about anything, setup, cars, Kyosho projects, Kyosho cars, anything. Just let me know. Usually, I wait for us to be about 100 guys watching, guys and girls actually. Um, Jules Pitoise from RCF in France. So I have many guys in French for sure, but I know look Steps Butab from Hong Kong. So that's super nice. I know Louis can be English, Portuguese, French, so he can speak many languages. So it's a little bit cheating for Louis. So yeah, I'm gonna be there tonight answering questions. Like I said, I have a driving school in West Southern France tomorrow, and I'm alone in my hotel room. Will was a little bit nicer to be with you guys than watching videos on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that. So just share the link from Facebook or YouTube, whatever you're watching, and just click your questions, drop it here, and of course I'll be happy to answer. Yes, live from Bergerac, France. We're gonna have, like I say, driving school tomorrow with Maxime and some other guys that made the trip. So 12 guys tomorrow, 12 guys on Saturday, learning driving lines, learning how to set up their cars a little bit more. So it will be super nice. I wish I can travel overseas also to do driving school. I know some guys are doing it in America, um, some other countries also. But if you're interested, for sure, I can travel to Asia also. I love traveling to Asia. Hi, Jan from UK. Like I said, yeah. Last time I traveled to Asia was maybe for the world's 10 scale, but it was super nice to go to Asia. I love racing in Asia, so Cinetic Challenge is for sure one of my best souvenir driving in Asia. So if you guys want to see me coming in Asia, we can do a driving course, like driving, and learn how to set up and drive your car a little bit better, go faster. I'll be happy to come. Yes, RSRC Academy at Cinetic. I posted on YouTube a video of me driving at Cinetic back in 2015, and I think it was one of the nicest video I've had in my phone. So I just wanted to share it with you guys. For sure, it's one of the nicest track in the world. Um, of course, Miguel, many other guys are doing super nice track like Joey Christensen in the US. Also, my friend from TLR are doing super nice track, sick design. Um, but in Asia, they know how to do it also. So the first question is gonna be from Sulkal Run on YouTube. When starting from your latest base setup for MP10E, what changes would you make for a small track with 20-second lap times? Wow, that's a tiny track. Pretty maybe indoor. I remember when I lived in Texas. I lived in Dallas for a year, and we had that small track that was in an old bowling area, and it was super nice. So I know what it is to driving tiny tracks. We have one indoor dirt track in France, at least. I mean, there was only one. So what I would do for that track, I would for sure get the car as light as possible, for sure, because it's outdoors. Outdoor 20-second lap times. It's in your backyard. Really? That's supposed to be amazing. Um, but yeah, so 20-second lap times, I mean, it's pretty tiny. So getting the car as light as possible, small batteries, because if it's 20-second lap times, I think you can run a lot longer with the battery. So I would go shorty all the way to the front, because I think you're gonna have some really tight airpins. So we need a lot of rotation. The basic setup I posted is making the car super easy to drive. So it's really forgiving, not a lot of the steering actually. The short, higher camber link in the front is making the car a little bit more around neutral. So what I would do is shorten the rear camber link. So you go inside on the rear hub. Will give you a lot of rotation in the back. Also, the 3 degrees toe in is really the like, yeah, that's the standard setup I recommend for European tracks. But if the track is small, you're gonna need a lot of rotation. So I would go 2.5 for sure, toe in the back, inner camber link on the hub. It will give you also more rotation, and I would go with the maybe a 2.1, 2.2 front sway bar, less caster also to make the car steer a little bit more. That's what I would do. Hi, Evan from UK. Hi, everybody. Um, Hi, Guy from America. Super good. I think that, like I said, the time is nice. Like it's good to be there with you guys and answer some questions. I hope Sokal Run. I don't know what's your name. Sorry, first name, but I hope I answered well. Also, if you have any question, of course, just pop it here. Do I have any questions here? Hi, Mike. Mike, yes. Hi, Jeremy. Is Jeremy 777 Jeremy Pitet, the new Kyosho driver that joined the team? That would be nice. Yeah, I got also many questions by messages, not especially on the live tonight, but about what I will do next year. Of course, I won't change anything. My package is awesome, I think, so I won't change anything in my package. I honestly like it a lot, so no change. I will still drive for Kyosho, Pico, aka for the nitro part, and Kyosho Connect, and aka Gen Ace batteries for the electric side. So no change at all. I've heard many rumors in France about me changing. but I'm feeling super comfortable with the Kyosho stuff. So no change for me next year. I'm really looking forward to what's coming. When you change the car or sponsors, I think it takes at least a good 6 months or a year to really get into your rhythm, get into the groove, and feel comfortable with your car and your stuff. So I feel now I'm in my comfort zone with the Kyosho stuff. So it would be a mistake to change. I'm feeling super comfortable, and like I said, it was super nice also to be at the World Championship with the Japanese guys. Being there, Yuichi and I was good also to chat about the future, and we'll be um, of course, like I say, we'll, being there with them at the track and the same track together, and was also super nice to like talk about the future and everything. So super good. Which project in the box with Kyosho? Of course, Sebastian, there are many different projects in the box with Kyosho. Kyosho is working like any other brand in the market. Of course, they always focus on making the car as easy as possible to drive for everybody. That's really what I like with the cars, and what I recommend for my customers also every day at the online shop. So they really want to focus on that, keep that in mind, and make the car a little bit faster for pro guys, also more performant. I think the Kyosho cars are super good out of the box. It's one of the easiest car to drive, and of course they are still working on some new projects. Um, Mike, I know Jan is asking now. I noticed in your latest photos you posted you had CVDs on. What's the benefits over universals? I will do some tutorials about that. Maybe quick tutorials. I think on the internet you have many pro guys that are explaining what's the difference between CVAs and universals. I think, in my opinion, the CVAs give more traction. Um, when you see on YouTube, you have many videos explaining what's the speed of what's going on with the drive shaft when you steer and when you accelerate at the same time. The rotation is not with the same speed, so the rotation of the wheel can be like fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow when you steer, for example. So, in my opinion, the CVA has a more natural feeling of the steering. It makes the car more aggressive, though. So, if you put them in the front, it will give you more steering, will make the car a little bit more aggressive. But if you go all the way around, the car has more traction. For me, it pops out of the corner quicker. It has a quicker reaction. The only drawback of that is the car is a little bit easier to drive when you have a bumpy track. So universal are going to be better if you want the car to be easier to drive, more settle, more numb around neutral, and if you just want to drive around the track. But if you want to go fast, I think CVAs are going to make the car faster, except if it's super bumpy and you want the car to be easy to go fast. So then in those conditions, you can use universal. That's why I like the CVAs actually, because in Europe at the moment, we have a lot of flat tracks, super high speed, not so many like old school 8 scale track with many bumps. I've seen yeah, we can the Dirt Natural Challenge or Silver State or what's the name of that track? Revelation Raceway. It's Southern Californian track, American tracks that are bumpy, and in those conditions, the Universal might be a little bit better. Of course, Christoph, I will be racing Kyosho next year. I say to Yuichi that I will send a 10 years contract, and he said he would be retired before that. So I need to find somebody else and the Kyosho guys to sign me a contract longer than that. Euh, Diego, j'ai un Pico T3 TT, c'est pas facile à régler le carburateur. For engine tuning, yes, it's a tutorial I want to do for quite a long time. It's one of the tutorial that is super hard to do. It depends on the fuel. It depends on many different things. And just send me a message, Diego. Envoie-moi un message avec une vidéo with the video, sometimes we can hear the engine only, and it's enough to give you some tuning options. But I know JQ made some videos about tuning engines. I think it was a pretty good video in English explaining how to tune the engine. I think with YouTube you can have subtitles also. So maybe you watch those videos and it will help you. Of course, you need a good glow plug, good fuel. It's the basics, but better to talk about that. Laurent Lebrun, some news about TKA3. Yes, of course. MP10 was released, then TKI2, and then, of course, we are working on the TKI3 version. Nothing has been decided yet, so you can make sure that nothing is going to be released in the near future. So of course, like I said, we're testing new parts, and we will go on Miles' question now about the Black Springs. So it's basically the parts we could try for TKI 3. We're working on some option parts, some different new parts for the cars. It's under development, but for now, nothing is settled. Of course, there will be a TKI 3 version of the car that will be released, but it's not going to be anything in the near future. That is for sure. With the Japanese and the way the company is working now with Kyosho, um, that's what I learned also from my own experience from back in the days. Um, the Japanese are really want to make sure that the part they're going to put in the box is the best. So it's taking a little bit of time, not like some other companies that release a new car every single year. At least you guys can buy your TKI 2, feel comfortable with it, run with it for quite a long time, being not being it outdated like after 6 months. So if you guys want to get a TKI 2, you can still go for it, and there will be a lot of time in front of you to get the most of it for sure. So mice, like I said, yeah, the new Black Springs, it's gonna be an option parts. We had back in the days the 1.4 wire springs, then the 1.5, and then now we are going the 1.6s. Um, that being said, most of the tracks now are high speed, especially in Europe. And also, I know that Ryan Lutz was asking for stiffer springs in the US. So Kyosho made it, and we had those black springs that look super nice also on the car, depending on your paint scheme. Sometimes if you go with the blue springs or red springs, it doesn't match your painting style. So the black or more neutral, more Switzerland style, and it matches everybody on the market. But no, being more serious, it's making the car more precise. I think giving the car a little bit more um, motion left to right, front to rear, less weight transfer. So it makes the car stiffer, and to me also faster because it reacts quicker, gets more traction out of the corner, it pops quicker, and it lands also the jumps a lot better. So it will be released. I don't have any release date yet, but I'm sure it's something you guys might want to try. My steerings are full front position. Front can be a solution. I think I honestly think, Breck, that this setup is way too aggressive. I think you're running a techno car before and you want your Kyosho to have the same feeling of the track as your techno car, but I'm sure you stay with the basic setup and you're gonna go a lot faster with the basic setup and getting used to the car and not you making the car the way you want it before, because I think it's faster to have an easier car to drive, especially when you're going to drive with other guys, than making the car super aggressive when you are driving alone now. And when you're going to go racing, it's going to be a different story, in my opinion. Jean Robert is asking about 10 scale with Kyosho. Honestly, I have no information about that. When I signed with Kershaw almost 3 years ago now, um, it was it was the 8 scale that was the main purpose. I don't know what are the plans for 10 scale. Yes, the MP10TE. Honestly, I never ran e-truggy, but with all the pros that I've talked to, they were like, "Oh, we are all running nitro truggy. Truggy is the key. You can punch it as hard as you can, and it's still taking everything, and it's super fun to drive." But e-truggy, they were all like, it's a hillbilly class and everything. But as soon as they drove it, they felt it was awesome. So I can't wait to run the MP10TE. And if Christoph is watching, I might need a MP10TE for driving the French national next year and run Truggy and e-buggy. That would be awesome. Ooh, long question by Guy. What would you use for diff fluids on the red dirt track with light dusting on good grip? I've been trying Ryan Lutz setup here in South Carolina, putting the rear camber link in inside middle and tower and outside and rear with 3 dot down and out with stake rotation out. Um, the red dirt is usually high bite, so I don't know what if Guy, you wanna just tell me a little bit more about the grip itself, dusting and good grip. So if the grip is good, then I will go a little bit higher differential setup. The 773 is for me the basic setup, but you can go maybe 10-10-5 as a basic setup. I think the car is not that um, nervous or not that precise on the differential. I think if you go from 7 to 10 in the center, it would make a big difference. But from the other tuning option, I think the camber links will make a bigger difference than the diff setup, in my opinion, sometimes. So putting the rear camber link inside, middle on tower, and outside on rear hub with 3 dot down and out. Um, if you are having too much rotation, yes, running 3 degrees toe in, so the 3 degrees inserts is gonna be the best way. Honestly, like I said, I posted on RSRC the basic setup I would recommend for both car MP10E and MP10 TKI2. I think, in my opinion, it makes the rear end a little bit more stable. For me, the real basic setup would be the car that is super easy to drive with the rear being settled, and then you're waiting for the front to steer. That would be the easiest to drive, and then you can adjust the rotation you want mid corner and everything. But to me, the basic setup is the rear end to be locked, and then you can accelerate, and then it's pushing into the corner, and then you can give more steering to the car. But for sure, the rear camber link, if you go inside on the hub, it gives a lot of rotation. So if you want less rotation, just go with a longer rear camber link, high on the hub, inside on the tower, and higher. That's pretty much the basic setup I use, and I think it makes the car a lot more stable on the back, um, with 3 degrees toe in, of course. Okay, so it's an 18 degrees caster also. It's not a lot of caster, but I think if you want the car to be a little bit more stable, also you can use more caster. It makes the car less nervous. Also on the Ackerman plate, you can go a little bit further back on the plate. Will make the steering more numb and easier to drive. Also making the rear end a little bit less shaky, less rotation. Jan is asking, what is the difference between moving the rear hub to the inside of the arm versus moving it inside on the inserts? Um, It is pretty much the same, but so if you go inside on the arm or inside on the hub, it's the same thing. That you're gonna change the pivot of the car, so the width is gonna be the same. Um, but yeah, it's I didn't really play with the inserts that are in the arms. I usually go all the way out in the arm and I change the insert in the hub. I usually do that because with the AK wheels, our car is too wide for the box. So if you want the car to be as stable as possible, as easy to drive as possible, Then you go as wide as possible with the hub and the arm. But with the box, we have to go a little bit more narrow with AK wheel. So that's why I use the inserts more inside. But honestly, I never tried to go with the same width and just change the arm length or changing the hub position. But I think it would be pretty much the same. But to go okay in the box, what I feel the best balance is to go with the hub inside and with the narrow hex. From the testing I've been doing, just going with more narrow hubs and keeping the standard hex is not as good as super wide on the arm, super wide on the hub, and standard hex. And the best feeling combination I could get to get the car okay in the box would be narrow hex and narrow hubs also. That's what I run pretty much all year. And also with non IFMAR or EFRA races. So I know the rear end is always legal. And that's why sometimes on my setup sheets, you can see that I use those setups because I run that setup all the way around everywhere. So I know the car how it reacts, and not only 2 races or 3 races, being the French national or FRA races. Oh ben, penses-tu venir au Kyosho Master? Of course, it's one of the best race of the year. I've been doing my first one last year in 2022. Was the first time since 2001. So it was super nice to be there, and being at the Kyosho Master. So of course I would be there. Guy, on my setup sheet, the steering Ackerman plate, does it show it for the flip position and standard position, left stand, and yes, 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 that's what it is. You can see it from the top. The standard position is when you have the here facing backward, and if you have it flipped, it's the leaflet that is all the way forward. So if you are looking at the manual, all the way back is the standard position. That's the one I use. It's half a hole if you're flipping it. So if you go all the way back, for example, with the standard position and you flip it, it's half a hole more back than if you flip it. No, I don't know if it's clear enough. Is there a good basic setup for 10TE, Peter? I think some guys in France, I know Nico Moisi that will be there at the academy tomorrow, has a pretty good setup. I think you can start with the Nitro truck setup also. I think the balance is going to be pretty much the same. Has Noah, the whip guy. Cool, I see your questions. Super nice. Peter is gonna be there at Kyosho Master this year. That's super nice. Peter is the manager of the Kyosho fan page. If you don't know it on Facebook, Peter is like doing that all day long, sharing posts, videos, setups. He's all over the place. He's doing a super nice job. Good job, Peter. It's always nice to be on that Facebook page and seeing what's going on in the Kyosho family. So thank you very much for what you're doing for the brand because it's awesome, really. No problem, guy. It's always a pleasure to be there. And of course, this is a live video, but if you guys have some questions later on or anytime, just shoot me a question by Facebook, YouTube, anything. And I would be, of course, happy to answer anytime. Thomas is asking, as a club racer, how often would you recommend a diff oil change? Depends on the cars, but honestly, if your diff doesn't leak, so if you're putting Teflon grease on the out drives, the bearings are fine, and of course the gasket is okay too. You don't really need to change the oil super often. I would go a couple hours to get the best performance. So whenever I'm racing, for example, I'm gonna go with I rebuild the car fully before the race, so changing the oils, the shocks, the bearings, making sure everything is gonna be okay. It's not really required sometimes, but at least when you go into the race, you're sure that nothing is gonna break, nothing is gonna come apart, and you're sure that everything is gonna be okay. So before a race, you make sure that everything is fine, and then the first differential to refresh would be the center, in my opinion, especially if you're using the big center differential, because there is a lot of oil in it, a lot of mixture of oil. So if you're using the standard MP9, MP10 center differential, I would recommend to refresh that before the mains, for example, so you make sure that the car has the best traction you can get out of it. Um, and so I would say, yeah, between 1.5, 2 hours. So would be half a gallon of fuel, and then after that, if you're like just practicing, for me it's like 10 hours, because it doesn't leak. So if you're doing your differential well, it doesn't leak. The differential oil quality is okay. You still have the good traction. I mean, the oil being black is not being burned. I mean, you can, with the experience now, you can open your differential. You can feel that if the oil is black, it's just because there is some mechanical stuff going on. So it's not that it's not going to go forward. You're still going to have um, traction and everything. But if you open the differential, it's empty. First, make sure the seals are fine, that you put grease on the outdrive, a thick Teflon grease, for example, or a lithium grease will stick to the outdrive a lot longer, so the oil is going to stay inside. And of course, you don't have to rebuild your differential as much. Um, but if you open your differential, the oil is there, but it smells burnt, then at that time you can lose some traction. Um, so first, the standard differential, like I said, if you're using the small differential that we use now, so the same diff case as the front and rear in the center, in my opinion, the car has more traction with that, has a little bit more steering also, so it doesn't burn the center differential as much. The big center differential was created and was designed to give more traction to the car and to get more consistency. But in my opinion, the oil is mixed a lot in that differential, and I think you can go a little bit further with the smaller differential, which is not theoretically as good. But in my opinion, the traction is better for a longer period of time, not only in the main final, but a longer period of time without any oil change. Peter is asking, is it necessary to place carbon on the car? I want to do a quick video also on that. I've been doing videos about the options. Um, and the carbon towers, carbon radio plate, all those nice options from Kyosho. I want to do a video talking about that, what can be the plus and minus of those parts. But in my opinion, um, the carbon parts are giving more grip to the car. It depends what you use, but basically the shock towers, for example, will give more grip to the car. It's a little bit more flexible, especially if you're using the Tika i2 versions. It's higher, so with the carbon being a little bit more flexible, it's making everything a little bit more flexible for the car, and it adapts to the track a little bit more. The car is more into the track, and you have more grip. So, in my opinion, the shock towers are a really big plus. I've not been. Some other guys asked me why I didn't use it for the last couple of months, the Euros and the Worlds, because those track were pretty high grip. So that's why I didn't use the carbon towers, because, in my opinion, it was giving too much grip. So that's why I was using the aluminum ones. But my basic setup is with the carbon towers. So more grip to the car, and especially the center parts, like the top servo saver plate, the radio plate. It looks super nice. So way nicer than the stock parts. So you have more performance, but also it makes the car looks a lot nicer. So that's why I like it. Yes, Brick. When the diff is smelling really old fish you don't want to eat, it's time to refresh it. Hi, Simon. Danny is having many questions, and I think Danny is not following my tutorials on YouTube or RSRC blogs because I've already talked about that. So, Danny, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or go to RSRC and the blog section. We have the tutorials, and I already talked about that, but I will be happy to answer tonight also. Talking about the gear ratio, 1343 or 1242. Um, the TKI 2 MP10 comes with 1242 gears as a stock. I personally never use them. I like the 1343 version more. In my opinion, the car is a lot easier to drive with the 1343 gear ratio front and rear. The traction is better. The car is less reactive, but in my opinion, with the 1242, the car has too much rotation, and when you go on power, the rear end wants to slip out of the corner, and I don't really like those gears. In any conditions I used, I felt the car was harder to drive, and it was creating wheel spin. It was not creating traction; it was creating wheel spin. So at my level, I felt the car was harder to drive, and yeah, like Carlos says, maybe super small, high bike track, you can feel a little bit better. But in my opinion, even in those conditions, if you go with the shorter gear ratio, you're still gonna have um, this quicker lap times with 1343 because with the 1242, when you accelerate, it goes to the wheels maybe quicker and it generates wheel spin. It doesn't really generate traction. And in my opinion, going 1343 generates more traction and less slip out of the general transmission. So we don't really have super high bite small tracks indoors, for example, in Europe. So we don't really have those conditions. But basically, on every single track I tried before the TK2 came out, every single track I tracked, every single track I tried, um, the I was faster and I felt more comfortable with the 1343. Danny, another questions. I like that. Steel versus aluminum gear diffs. I tested it today actually, again because at the Euros and at the World Championship, we were all using aluminum gear diffs. So basically, the standard ones, IF402. Those gears are from the Middle Ages. Back in the days in the 2000s, I was using that materials on my MP 7.5. So I thought, yeah, maybe it's time to go with steel differentials. And when IFW 621 and 622 came out, we were like, okay, this is something great. We can try that, and we're all about it. But I feel the aluminum gears being lighter makes the car quicker and generates more traction. So front and rear, for sure, I like the aluminum gear diff better because it generates more traction. Also, what you have to keep in mind if you want to try the steel differentials, the steel pinions, the gear ratio is different. So the mesh between the pinions is a little bit different too. So you need to go with the thicker, way thicker oil. You've seen the setup sheets from Joao and Yuichi at the Worlds, and they were using 100,000 differential oil in the center, and it was pretty much the same thickness as my center differential being 30,000. So you have to keep in mind when you're using the steel differential, there is almost a 2 ratio between the aluminum and the steel differential. So if you're using the steel pinions and you want to have pretty much the same diff feeling as with the aluminum ones, you need to go at least 2 times heavier. So let's say a 5,000 aluminum, you need to go at least 10,000 with the steel Today, for example, I was driving 777 in my differential. I wanted to try the center with the steel pinions, and I went 50. I went 30. Sorry, I went 30, which was almost like a 10,000 with the stock pinions. But I felt the car had more rotation and maybe a little bit more traction. So front and rear, I'm not sure it would give anything to the car, but I will try on different tracks because Joao likes it a lot to go with that steel differential in the center. And from what I've tried today, I was a little bit quicker, and my car also had a little bit more rotation. So that's something we could try. Mike asked, "Do you prefer to build new kits as throughout the season, or do you prefer to just replace parts?" Um, Depends on the cars, but with the Kyosho cars, it's the first time I feel that you can build a new kit, go to the track, and it's gonna be awesome. It's, to me, the first time in my career that I can build the car, follow the manual, or follow like what you're usually doing with um, um, the brake measurements and everything. I know that, I don't follow manual for the brake measurements. I put a little bit more clearance so I can have the best feeling for the brakes. But if you're following what you used to, you just build your car, go to the track, and the first tank or the first pack you're doing, you already feel that it's the car you've been driving forever. So it's the first time I have that, and of course you can drive a new car for a big race, for example, and you're never gonna have a problem. But throughout the season, I go over two cars. Um, it's basically what I do. I build a new one for the beginning of the season, then until the Euros or the Worlds, where I build a new one, and then I go the other part of the season. Um, but to me, it's a lot better to change the parts here and there. I have a race car and a practice car. So my practice car goes 2 or 3 times a week at the track, and I just change the parts, so it's always the same car. And the race car is just updated through the season. But if it depends on the races you're doing. For me, it's like almost 30 races a year, so two kits is pretty much what I go through. Louis, sur les pistes européennes, on voit vraiment la différence entre les supports amortisseurs longs et courts. Yes. High and low tower, low shock towers are making a difference. Um, to me, the higher shock tower is always better. So there was no question asked. I went through that, tested maybe 30, 30, 40 times. High tower, low towers, long shocks, short shocks, and to me, it's always faster with the higher shock towers. The car has more roll, but as soon as you set up the car well for those towers, you always gonna be faster. Oui, donc Louis, pour moi, c'est toujours plus rapide avec les tours hautes. HRC, no, I didn't play with that much. You can change the bushing to go a little bit higher. To me, when you lower the roll center, so if you go higher with the bushings, you're just taking out rear traction. So if you want to go HRC, it's for a super high bike track, like you say. Maybe you're used to small tight tracks and you want more rotation. So maybe going HRC would be better. But to me, you're just taking out traction from the rear. So better to stay LRC and give more rotation to the car with something else, maybe rear brakes or shorter cabling than going HRC. Simon, is it a problem if the chassis is very low? 1340 degrees caster on front versus the rear drive. The rear drivetrain become tricky. Yes, of course. Less caster make the car more nervous. So if you go less caster, you're gonna have more initial steering, quicker reactions for the car. So it might be quicker in ramps, for example, small tracks. But high speed tracks, you want a car to be a little bit more numb, a little bit more stable. So in those conditions, more caster will round the corner more, and the rear end will be less shaky, less tricky, like you said. So it will be a lot more stable with less with more caster. Sorry, 13 14 is super small. I used 13 degrees caster on the MP9 where the weight was a lot in the back, the suspension was old school, and we wanted steering in Padova. So that's why I went 13, but I would never go 13 anywhere else. I mean, my minimum now caster is 16. Miles is asking plastic rear hub versus aluminum rear hubs. Pretty much the same answer. Just check on YouTube, Miles. We have that video covered already. I did aluminum versus plastic. To me, plastic gives more rotation. It's not what I would say on any other car I've been using before. Before I would say aluminum would give the rear end more stiff, so it will give more rotation, but it's not the case on the MP10. On the MP10, having a rear hub in aluminum, making the rear end a little bit heavier, and you have more grip. So if you go with the plastic hubs in the back, you're gonna have more rotation. With aluminum hubs, the car is gonna be more precise and more stable. So if you're gonna go stock, the rear gonna have more rotation than with the aluminum. I always feel the springs are too soft. So you're maybe using HRC because you want the car to have more support. So to have more support, you can go maybe one step up on the shock tower or different sway bar. Stiffer springs, have you tried the blue ones? It shouldn't squat, or you should have a lot of support with the, those and any springs. So would you rent the same thickness oil in the smaller cylinder as you would in larger one? Um, 80. Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, pretty much when I first started to go with the smaller diff, it was maybe more than a year ago. I was not allowed to use it at the beginning. So I first tested it with the same oil. I ran 7,000 with the big center diff and I went 7 with the small one, but it's thicker. So if you want to go with the same feeling at the end with the big center differential or the small center differential, you need to go a little bit softer. So, for example, a 7 small will be like a 10 big, pretty much. Um, so, if your standard setup was 10,000 with the big one, go 7 to start with. If you feel the car is good, it's stable enough, then you can go back to the oil you were using with the big differential. But the car will be more reactive, more precise, and you're gonna have more traction. So of course you will be faster. The only situation where I feel you can go lower and quite a lot lower with the small center differential when the track is super bumpy. I tried 3,000 in the center myself when the track was blown out, and my car was amazing. And in my opinion, with 3,000 in the center, you have the car that has more traction than 5 or 7 with the big center differential, but the car has the same easiness in the bumps. So to me, it's the only solution, the only situation where you want to go super low in oil in the center to have a really good feeling of the car and still really good behavior. Yes. So if you're using the grays, I would you're using the gray 84 in the back, so it's the old ones. If you're using the Tika i2, it should be 95 in the back. 84 are the small ones. So if you want more support, of course, before HLC, before anything else, go with the blue 81 1.5 wire. And of course, this is going to be a lot better, especially if you want to look for more rotation. No way. Excuse me, guys. My wife think I'm doing something else. Je suis en live, bébé. Ciao. Hi, hi, hi. Way too soft for me, the 95. So that's why you just need to get out of those gray ones and it's going to be better. with the blue ones, because the 1.5 are gonna be a lot harder than uh, than the other ones for sure. Pendant le temps froid, tu es toujours yes, yes, Louis. Oui, oui, toujours le petit. Yeah. No, I'm just sitting at the hotel. I told her I was live, and then she calls me, babe. She probably doesn't watch it because she doesn't really care about RC. Ay, ay, ay. I wish I would do the laundry at home, but no, I'm here in my hotel room by myself. So I was better do a live video with you guys than being on Netflix or something like that. Dans le set passe-partout, les pistons 612 sont mieux que les pistons d'origine. Depends on the car you're using. JP is asking about the shock pistons. In my opinion, the 6.1.2, 6.1.3 are really a good option for TKI 2 right now. The 5 holes that are coming stock with the car, they make the car really easy to drive, but it gives too much weight transfer. The car is too soft, and then it just breaks and gives way more chassis motion. So I would for sure um, go with the 6 holes piston. Donc JP, oui, oui, clairement, les pistons Citroën donnent vraiment un gros plus. Pierre confirme aussi avec moi un gros plus pour les pistons Citroën qui donnent plus de motricité, plus de grip, plus de précision à la voiture aussi. Les 5 trous donnent beaucoup de facilité, mais moins de grip et la voiture a beaucoup de mouvements, beaucoup de changements de j'arrive plus à trouver mes mots en français, du coup je suis désolé. Transfert de masse, pardon, gauche-droite, avant-arrière, et du coup la voiture sera beaucoup plus précise avec les 6 trous, qui peuvent parfois par contre être un petit peu fermes dans les pistes un petit peu trouées, un peu ondulées, donc peut-être un 8 x un 2, 8 x un 3 sera peut-être l'entre-deux. Yes, you are there. I see you, Elodie. I affiche you, babe. So I ran the blue 85 of super loose, no grip, and then for higher grip. No, I would go if the track is super low grip. I would go with the purple ones, 81. Never use the 85. In my opinion, the 85 are too long. So you go with 81 purple in the rear if the track is super low grip, and if the track is high grip, the blue 81, but not the blue 85. The blue 81 is the stiffest springs you can get for your car at the moment on the rear. Do you know where and when the Kyosho Master 23 will be? It will be in Paris, pretty much. I'm pretty sure about that. I know that they have a lot of buildings around that are being built, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be in Paris. And I don't know if I have the dates yet. Let me check. Supposed to be early May or early June. Usually it's the first weekend of May or the first weekend of June. Um, I hope it's not gonna be the first weekend of May because there is the Silver State race. It was like that last year, and I really want to go Silver State this year in Vegas. So I hope it will be uh, first weekend of June and not first weekend of May. Do you have some more questions? Maybe in French, peut-être en français. Les gars, si vous avez d'autres questions, c'était vraiment 100% English tonight. I'm sorry about that. Le pneu AK Standard, c'est toujours l'impact. Oui, de base, oui. Impact qui peut potentiellement être remplacé par le component aujourd'hui. Vraiment un bon compromis avec le component aussi, qui peut être l'entre-deux des fois. L'impact sur certaines pistes est un petit peu haut. JP is asking about the AK tire. What is the most standard one for AK range? And I would say yes. For European tracks, the Impact is a really good choice because the tracks are pretty much always dusty and bumpy, and for sure it really helps in those conditions. The Gridiron also is super nice, and really like the components also now. That is a good in between the impacts and the double downs. Yes, Simon. Yeah, I hope. But it's always the same story. Like when you buy a house, you don't want noise around, and when you buy a house and the day after there is a motocross track around on the other side, you don't really want to stay in the backyard with that always shouting in your ears. So yeah, stick versus wheel transmitter, just a preference. You should talk to my mechanic Gagtown about that. It's all about the sticks. Uh, it's a big deal. Honestly, it's a big deal. It's like the yellow or the white wheel deal. It's like statistically, there are many more world champions using white wheels and stick radios than wheel radio and yellow wheels. So I'm using a wheel radio and yellow wheels. So I will never be a world champ. That's done. No, it's to me it's a driver preference. I started with a wheel transmitter, and I've always been used to that. Those guys that are on sticks, they can drive with wheel because you're always trying different cars and your friends' cars, and but it's a driver preference. I honestly never had the experience or at least the skills to drive with the stick radio and compare if I could go faster with the stick radio or the wheel radio. I think it's a driver preference. Yes, Jérôme. Jérôme, on a déjà pas mal de Français qui sont intéressés par aller à la Silver State. Donc, si par chance il y a un déplacement de prévu pour aller à la Silver State, on va potentiellement avec RSRC essayer de créer quelque chose pour faciliter le voyage des Français qui veulent venir parce que c'est vraiment une pure course à faire aux États-Unis. Pour moi, une des meilleures courses US aujourd'hui, dans un casino, en indoor. Donc, clairement, s'il y a quelque chose qui s'organise pour la Silver State à Vegas, premier week-end de mai, clairement, on va essayer de faire quelque chose pour les Français. Et la Dirt, pareil, si jamais vous êtes intéressé à venir à la Dirt, c'est sûr qu'on y sera. Donc, si on peut s'organiser un trip, ça peut vraiment être cool. Une course RCGP cette année, non. L'année prochaine, sûrement pas non plus. Pretty easy answer. Shorty ou stick? I started with shorty battery, but the problem is the limit is always 6,000 or 6,200, and it's not enough if you want to run 10-minute race with warm up lap, hand lap, and making sure you're gonna have the run time. So I started with shorty. I think the car has a better behavior when the grip is higher, but if the grip is lower, it's better with stick because the car is more settled. It presses the tires more to the ground and you have more grip. Donc JP, plutôt shorty sur des pistes avec beaucoup de grip, stick sur des pistes avec peu de grip. Mais dans l'ensemble, pour une finale de 10 minutes, pour moi, en tout cas, avec un combo assez gourmand, si on met vraiment du gaz, dans les grandes pistes rapides, par exemple, moi j'ai eu le problème au Kyosho Master, typiquement, avec des shorties en 6000, malgré que je les ai chargés en HV, avec 10 minutes de finale, en été, où il fait chaud, on tire vraiment sur les batteries. Et j'en ai quelques-unes qui ont gonflé parce qu'on arrive vraiment en trop bas, trop bas, trop bas dans la capacité des batteries. Et dans ce cas-là, vaut mieux utiliser des sticks qui seront plus lourds régler peut-être la voiture en fonction, mais au moins on est sûr qu'on peut faire les tours de chauffe sans se poser la question avec des 8000. Ah ah! Pour quand la ruée 4? On est sur 2 ruées l'année prochaine. Il y en aura une fin octobre, c'est sûr, à Agde, comme cette année, et on est en train de réfléchir à une version 4. La 4 a déjà eu l'édition, hein, Louis, si tu l'as loupé, on sera plutôt sur la 5. La 4, c'était celle il y a 15 jours. La 5e sera potentiellement fin mars à Boissey, comme cette année. Mike, with steering servo, the choice is between speed servo or a torque. Which do you prefer? Myself, I hate speed. I'm almost 36, so the speed is what you don't want to get from the car. It's what you want to get yourself into. But to me, the servos that we run now, they are too fast for the cars we have. They're too quick, and it makes the car more nervous. So I run the highest servos for almost 6 years now, with the B210. It has a lot of speed, a lot of torque. But to me, the most important, if you want to make your servo last longer, is to have the torque. If your servo doesn't have enough torque, then it's gonna run hotter, and it can break quicker. But on the track, I myself reduce the speed of the servo on the radio. So I have minus 15 forward, minus 15 return on my M17 Sanwa radio. So I just reduce the speed of the servo. So I already run a Toki servo that is not slow because it's super fast. But with Highest, for example, we have two different versions, the B200 and the B210. The internals are the same, just the gear ratio is different. So one is torquey, one is faster. And I'm already using the torquey one, so the slowest one. And I reduce it on the radio because it's still too fast. So to me, of course, a servo that has more torque is better than the quick servo. Peter, which towers are on the MP10TE standard? It's the same towers are as the Nitro truck, so it's the same versions. The geometry is the same. It's just the center part that fits the batteries that is mostly the same part as the MP10E, but the towers are there. Est-ce que selon toi, la relève française est prête à se succéder? Qui est pour toi le pilote français le plus prometteur? I already answered that questions. To me, the most promising driver in France is Theo Lemaire. I follow this guy for a long time. We have many different guys in France that are super quick. We have Noah Ben Mohamed also that is super quick. We have Matisse Père. We have I always forget his name, but Sohei Azulay. So all those guys, I'm sure they're super fast. They're gonna be there in the near future. Um, like I said the other day in French, in September, I already say that we lost a generation. So in my opinion, there was that generation of those 30 plus guys now, the Agons brothers, me and some other guys that were there forever. And then there was that 20 plus generation there that is a little bit lost now because I don't know, they were like expecting too much and they had big disappointments, and now they're not there anymore. They lost focus. They lost. They're not there anymore. They're not even fighters fighting with us anymore. So I'm sure next generation, the 18 plus now, are gonna be faster in the near future. Donc oui, Théo Lemaire, Sohail Azoulay, Mathis Père, pourquoi pas Rémi Bermudez aussi, Noah Ben Mohamed sont pour moi la relève en France, et on a hâte effectivement qu'ils arrivent pour venir nous chatouiller, que ça tire tout le monde vers le haut et qu'on arrête de se tirer dans les pattes. And feed that high aluminum so to yes, yes. To me, at 2100, kV motor for 8 scale buggy is good, because you can adjust it on super high speed tracks. You have the power on small tracks. You can reduce it on the EPA on the radio if you have too much power, but at least you have it. If you have a 1900, then it can be not enough on some big tracks, and then you can do whatever you want with the turbo, with the gears. You can upgrade it, up gear it, but it's not. It's might not be enough. I mean, I started with 1900 on my car. Maybe the last Hobbywing version J3 with the 20 amps, the 200 amps speedo can be enough, because it's really efficient and it can be good. But with the speedo that I'm using, the 140 SCT, that is super reliable, I recommend the 2100. Pour moi, le 2100 est mieux, à mon avis, parce que sur les grandes pistes, tu peux avoir vraiment la puissance que tu veux. Et puis, sur les toutes petites pistes, tu peux réduire un petit peu le PA à la radio s'il y a vraiment trop de puissance. Mais avec un 1900, ça peut être un petit peu poussif. Et quand après, on est vraiment limité dans les paramètres du vario, bah, ça peut être limité, à mon avis, en tout cas, sur certaines grandes pistes. Donc moi, je partirais plutôt sur un 2100 en baissant la puissance à l'EPA si vraiment il y en a trop sur certaines pistes. Mais si on met tout le vario à zéro avec un vario correct, normalement, un 2100, c'est largement exploitable. Si vous avez un 2100 avec un pignon de 25 et du turbo à donf dans le vario, bah, évidemment, c'est impilotable. C'est les premières choses que je vois en école de pilotage. Moi, s'il y a vraiment trop de puissance, c'est impilotable. Et on ne peut pas faire du réglage voiture quand on est surpuissant comme ça. C'est les premiers problèmes qu'on peut rencontrer. Mais à mon avis, selon les marques, hormis peut-être le dernier Hobbywing G3 qui est vraiment très efficient, qui peut permettre d'être roulé en 1900 parce que le Vario 200 ampères et le moteur G3 Hobbywing sont vraiment, vraiment couplés ensemble, très puissants. Sinon, je pense qu'un 2100, c'est assez. So it's already an hour plus, guys. If you have other questions, just let me know. We're gonna be done pretty soon. I have to wake up early tomorrow morning for the academy, learning those guys how to drive and set up their cars. So really looking forward to that day tomorrow. A couple of days in Bergerac, France. Like I say, west southern France, and of course, I would be happy to travel around France and Europe also to do those academies. It's always a nice setup to see new faces. Thank you, Mike. I hope you guys like it. We're gonna try to do as much as possible. Depends on the timings. For me, it's always easier when we get into like the off season here. October, November, December is the low season. It's always starting earlier. Um, I'm gonna be in Padova first weekend of January, so not a big time off, but it's gonna be nice. Sako, you did say in one of your videos if the track is bumpy, use 81 front and 85 rear springs, purple, red, or blue. Not really. For the MP10, I always recommend 70 millimeter front, 81 millimeter rear. That's what I recommend everywhere. So 70 front, 81 rear. If the track is super bumpy, I would go red front, purple rear, and that's it. If the track is super, super bumpy, you can go longer springs, maybe 81 front, 85 rear, but still with red front, purple rear. That would be maybe the softest plush you can get. Um, but that's it. Expo, gaz, frein, direction, tout le temps. Maxime, on va en parler, ça. Je sais plus si tu es à l'académie demain ou samedi, mais on va en parler. L'expo, je suis pas fan. Parce que globalement, l'expo, bah, si tu dois aller fin de course à fond, quoi qu'il arrive, en fin de course, tu dois aller à 100% du voyage de ta direction. Donc, si tu mets de l'expo, bah, ça fait doucement, doucement, doucement et puis de toute façon ton volant suit donc ça fait doucement, doucement, doucement et d'un coup, dans tous les cas, tout ce que tu as pas pris, si ta courbe, elle fait une exponentielle comme ça, elle doit le récupérer donc ça fait doucement, doucement, doucement et d'un coup, c'est très rapide. Donc cette expo a tendance à créer un manque de souplesse et de progressivité de la direction. Donc moi, j'ai plutôt tendance à baisser vraiment la vitesse du cerveau qui est sur toute la course. Et du coup, quand tu tournes ton volant, tu as toujours cette progressivité que tu n'as pas du tout avec l'exponentiel. Maxim was asking about expo or speed on the radio. To me, when you go exponential, when you go full travel on the steering, for example, if you go exponential, it's going to go slow, 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 and then quick to readjust from what you didn't get at the beginning of the curve. So it's slow, 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 and then it picks up to go full travel. So I don't really like exponential. I prefer to reduce speed than exponential on the steering servo. I don't really do the throttle one because I'm used to that on the finger. But with the steering, it's always like you get shaky or you have some quick reaction with your hands. So it makes the car more nervous. Of course, like I said, with the servos we have now. So okay, samedi super. David, is there any benefit to using diff gears IFW 622? We already did that on the beginning of the video. We already had that question, David. But in my opinion, so 22 is the center. From what I remember, at 21 is the front and rear. Like I said, I tried that today. I think it can give a little bit more rotation to the car. So the rear end is a little bit more free in the low speed corners with those gears in the center. But you have to keep in mind that you have to go by two for the oil. So if you're used to a 7K in the center, go at least 20 or 15 or 20K if you want to use those steel pinions to get the same feeling on the track. Because if you're using 7K with the standard pinions and you go 7K with the steel pinions, you're gonna go a lot softer. When you take your diff, it's a lot softer. So go at least a 2 ratio between those two and get your opinion on that. But I think in the center it can be good for small tracks to get more rotation out of the car. Like I said, I tried that again today. I know Joao and Yuichi were using it at the World, and they really like that. It makes the car easier to drive. Also, might be good on bumpy tracks. So I will do more tests and maybe do a quick tutorial about that, especially for that steel center pinions. Would it be the same setup for MP10E? Um, between both cars, I pretty much run the same setups. The suspension is the same between one and the other. I just changed the shock oil, sway bars, and that's pretty much it. But all the cambling positions, Ackerman positions are the same. I'm usually running a thicker center differential in my e-buggy to get more pop because that's the thing that absorbs all the torque from the car in the center on the MP10E. So I usually go a little bit thicker in the center with the MP10E, but with the suspension, to me, it's pretty much the same. Okay, guys, I think it's time to say bye bye. Good morning to the guys in Asia. Have a good day for you guys being in America. Good night also for you guys that are in Europe. And that video is going to be online for forever. So if you have any questions, just pop me a message and I would be happy to answer. Pour tous les Français aussi qui avaient des questions ce soir, surtout n'hésitez pas à les poser en commentaire ou à m'envoyer un message. C'est avec grand plaisir que j'y répondrai encore. Et puis, on va essayer de se refaire d'autres vidéos live dans les semaines à venir pour répondre à toutes vos questions avec plaisir. So, thank you guys for watching. We're going to be live as many times as possible during that off period. Like I say, the off period is just November and December pretty much for me. starting the season in January already with Padova race in Italy. Um, but if you have any questions, just of course pop me a message. I would be happy to answer. Of course, I will be there around in 2023 with the same package, like I said, Kershaw, Pico, aka Genes, Connect, Electronics, Sanwa, highest servos, aka tires, racing experience, 16% nitro fuel. See you guys. Have a good night. Bye bye.